Hi, I'm Huda Elasaad.
And I'm Diana Yousef, and together we are co-founders for Change Water Labs, where we repurpose available technology to come up with new solutions to improve access to safe water and sanitation globally.
So when we talk about the word innovate, we look at the middle, the nova. What that means is new. And a lot of the discussion around innovation and invention is around completely new inventions. But we're saying, does it really have to be that way?
Well, we're here to tell you that you can innovate with anything.
And what that really means is taking existing technology, layering on lean R&D to come up with something disruptive and game-changing.
So we both took different paths to arrive at innovate with anything, but the happy result is that our shared approach brought us together in the team that we are today.
So my path started very early on in my career. I was engineering industrial sewage treatment plants in emerging markets. And what I found is that the technology I was working with seemed to fall into two extremes. There was the outdated, conventional, low recovery plants, often inefficient, and then there was the over-designed, over-budgeted, over-engineered plants. And there didn't seem to be anything in between for those that needed it most, those in the developing world and the off-grid space. And what you're left with in that space is often inappropriate technology that often doesn't meet the needs and the context of that locality. Lots of money is going into these water initiatives, but a lot of it is reported wasted. Because how can you really bring high-tech to low-tech settings and really make it work? I knew that I didn't want to spend 10 years developing some wonder water filter when these people needed water urgently yesterday. And we've been purifying water for ages, so why reinvent the wheel? So our solution was, well, let's take available components, commercially available components, let's layer on and our smart devices, our smart design, our smart control systems, and our optimized maintenance so that we can invent a system that provides solar-powered, on-site water purification systems for the non-expert user. So here you see our invention, our system where we can rapidly and dramatically increase water production, energy efficiency, and water recovery, all while minimizing environmental impact and reducing cost. All of this was done under PV Pure, my first company, where we're now giving people on-site the power to produce their own water.
For me, my pathway to innovating with anything was a little bit more pedestrian. My early career, I sort of had this zigzag path where I bounced around between being a biochemist, a business consultant, an international development professional, and a venture capitalist. And then suddenly, 7 years ago, I suddenly found myself off the grid professionally. I was totally just without anything. I was a new mom in a new city with no job and no prospect. So I was in a hole. The only way I was going to get out of that hole was to completely reinvent myself. So how was I going to do that without money or a lab or any kind of network or resources? Well, I spent a couple years dating other people's startups. I kept hoping that some amazing technology would just come out of MIT and Harvard and just land in my lap. That didn't happen. So I got tired of waiting, and I decided, what the heck? I'm just going to have to, if I'm going to become this entrepreneur that solves these really important problems, I'm just going to have to develop my own technology or invent for myself. So what I did was I basically decided that, okay, I'm going to try this entrepreneurship thing. I really want to focus on developing disruptive technologies to lift people out of poverty. So I started playing around with any kind of materials I could just get my hands on and put them in different combinations in my kitchen to see if I could come up with a low-energy, passive, low-cost way to essentially separate water from waste. And what I ended up coming up with is what I lovingly call shrink wrap for crap. And what that is it's a way to passively and rapidly evaporate wastewater at rates of more than 1 liter per hour. After I came up with this in my kitchen, I kind of was working on it for the next year and a half by myself, but eventually I was able to attract a team. And then in May 2015, there was this one day where basically my universe collided with a bunch of hard objects. So one good thing was we got our first funding check. But the rest of it wasn't so good. that same day, my team imploded. And oh yeah, I found out I was pregnant again. So, all right. So basically, I was thinking about it. I was like, all right, so no team, baby on the way. How do I send the check back and close down my company? And then I remembered that actually later on that afternoon, I have to meet up with this woman for coffee. And I was so not in the mood. But it was this woman that she was a friend of a friend, and I'd been introduced to her on email like months and months and months ago. And we just kept playing email tag. And so finally, today was the day that we were going to meet up for coffee. And turns out she was introduced to me as, oh, you know, what a coincidence. Another Egyptian woman living in Cambridge who's focused on water purification systems for people in emerging markets.
You knew?
La! So glad I didn't cancel that meetup because that changed everything for me. That day I met Huda, and it turned everything around. It became a transformative partnership that really rekindled my passion for the work that I was doing.
What I found is our missions aligned so well that it was so easy to jump on this journey with Diana. And what we found too is that we're just completely complementary.
Yeah, so with her deep water expertise, she brings a brilliant builder brain.
And with Diana's bright business brain, we can actually take our technology from the lab into the market.
So this was really transformative for both of us, and we've been working together on Change Water, and all of the sort of progress we've made has really happened since we came together.
So what are we innovating, you might ask? By leveraging the shrink wrap for crop material, we're designing the next generation portable toilet for safe and dignified sanitation access for people off-grid and living offline.
Globally, 40% of people, that's 4 out of every 10 people, live without access to a safe toilet. And this isn't merely unpleasant or inconvenient. This really cuts people off from their potential. Poor sanitation causes 4% of all deaths in the world, 80% of all infectious disease, shocking rates of violence and rape against women and girls when they have to go. And it leads to 20+% of girls globally dropping out of school before puberty because they can't manage their sanitation needs during the day without proper bathrooms at schools. So really, the lack of a toilet perpetuates poverty. The answer isn't as easy as dropping a toilet in every home because most of these people live offline and things get messy really fast. When flushing isn't an option, the burden of collecting and removing sewage becomes unsustainably costly.
So our solution to this overflowing problem is we shrink it. And here's how. Sewage is mostly water. So if we can rapidly and cheaply get rid of this water, we actually eliminate most of the problem. So we're leveraging our novel material so that we can passively and rapidly evaporate up to 95% of daily on-site sewage generation. So all we're releasing is pure water vapor into the air. It's evaporation without the energy cost. And because we're using already available materials, we're not going to be spending 10 to 15 years in the lab or $10 to $50 million on R&D. We're developing a new technology at 1/100th of the cost and 1/10th of the time. Our material, it's fast, it's cheap, and it's already available at scale. And in fact, only 40 cents worth of our material can eliminate 20 persons worth of daily sewage for an entire month. And just to show that it's not magic, here's our membrane passively and rapidly evaporating liquid on the inside to pure vapor on the outside.
So leveraging this disruptive material, our team is developing a revolutionary portable evaporative toilet for homes with no power or plumbing. The way the toilet works is that it collects waste solids and liquids in a pouch, an internal pouch of our membrane, which then rapidly evaporates 95% of daily sewage volumes, basically flushing it away. So because we have this amazing shrinkage technology, it allows the toilet itself to be really small. It's very compact. It's a drop-in, easily deployable solution, and it's also something that fits really well in tight spaces. So it's a really good solution for urban slums and refugee camps. While all offline sanitation still requires you to collect and remove the residual sewage, This is usually frequent and costly and unscalable and unsustainable. But because we provide such drastic shrinkage and rapid shrinkage on site, our system could cut those costs in half at least and allow for unprecedented scalability. So for what aid agencies are currently spending on failing communal sanitation, they could put one of our toilets in every home. And we're hoping that with our lean innovation process, we can bring this disruptive, yet appropriate, affordable, and quick-to-market solution to bring sanitation to those who lack it and start impacting lives next year.
So the road to innovation is often not an easy one, and we've definitely had our fair share of obstacles and naysayers that pretty much told us that we're wasting our time. How can you really develop something new from something old? And penalized us for focusing solely on the developing markets.
But I don't know, I think the way that you deal with that is you keep putting one foot in front of the other. And every day you wake up and you try to figure out what's gonna fire up your brain that day. You gotta really connect every day with what makes you tick. And there are a lot of days when that's really hard, but you just keep going. But what's really good about our team is that we actually share two of our mutual motivations. One is our love for our motherland, Egypt, and the other is the desire to empower women and girls through STEM and innovation.
So for me, being from Egypt, I always knew that the technology I developed away from home, I wanted to one day bring back home and be part of the solution that was just that was overwhelming our region with problems. And one of those problems is clean water. And when I look at the faces of refugees, they look like me. They have my eyes, they have my face, they speak my language. And I know that it could have been me. So I've devoted my life as an inventor to invent for them. Because in 2017, to lack something as basic as clean water and toilets is completely unacceptable. And I also wanted to make sure that I was giving the Middle East one less thing to fight about, and that's water.
Getting through the self-doubts and the slog and the tough times, the thing that motivated me were these two little miracles. So as a mother of two young girls and a woman who had to fight, really, to have a place professionally, I want to show these girls that they can be brave, that they can figure out their own path, that they don't need to ask permission from anybody, that they don't have to follow some kind of predefined edict for what they do with their lives. I want them to go their own path and draw their own lines. Our economy does a terrible job of including amazing, strong, creative women, and it costs all of us a lot. And as somebody who's experienced that, the only way that I was gonna prevent myself from becoming irrelevant was to reinvent myself. And so I have to stay on this path every day so that I can get to the point where I prove it. And that way I can say with credibility to these girls that they can do that too.
And I've also become committed to paving the path for women in the technical field. I remember my very first day at my very first job as a process engineer at a sewage treatment plant in Kuwait. And there was not a single female on site, which meant no women's bathroom. So I was assigned one with a piece of paper and some tape, and I've shown them now because now I build my own toilets. But it was challenging. I knew it was going to be challenging, but I was up for it. We've come a long way. We've had a lot of obstacles. We've wanted to quit time and time again, but we finally found the validation. Experts in our field of sanitation are calling our technology a potential game changer for increasing access for safe and dignified toilets around the world.
Not bad for something that was hacked up in a kitchen. We just want to tell you all that for any of you aspiring innovators, basically just get started. Pick a problem that you're passionate about. Don't wait for the dollars. Don't wait for the big scientific breakthroughs. Just find something you're passionate about and start hacking, because you really can innovate with anything. Thank you.